Hello everyone. Today's video topic. Take care of my child all day, but no one notices I'm slowly disappearing. Opening. The invisible work. Every morning begins before anyone else notices. Before the house is fully awake. Before the world starts asking questions. You are already moving. You measure time not in hours, but in feedings, naps, cries, and brief moments of quiet that disappear too quickly. There is no clear beginning and no real end to the day, only a continuous flow of needs that must be met. You carry a small body, but also an invisible weight no one seems to see. From the outside, it looks ordinary. You're home. You're just taking care of your child. But inside this work lives constant vigilance. Listening for every sound, anticipating hunger, discomfort, fear. Holding calm even when your own nervous system is stretched thin. You soothe, regulate, and steady another human being, often while your own emotions wait quietly in the background, unattended. This labor leaves no visible trace. There is no finished product to point to. No clear moment where someone says, "I see how much you did today." When the child is okay, the work disappears, and so do you. You don't collapse. You don't stop functioning. You keep going. And because you keep going, no one worries. The exhaustion here is not loud. It doesn't always cry for help. It settles quietly into the body, in the shoulders that never relax, in the mind that never fully rests, in the sense that you are present everywhere except with yourself. This is the invisible work, being constantly needed, while slowly becoming unseen. Doing everything right, while feeling like you are fading out of the frame. And the hardest part, no one told you that love could feel this lonely. You're home all day, the misunderstood reality. You're home all day. It's often said casually, sometimes with curiosity, sometimes with envy, and sometimes with the quiet assumption that being home means being rested, supported, or at least untouched by pressure. The words sound harmless, but they carry a misunderstanding that settles deeply and stays. Being home all day with a child is not the absence of work. It is the absence of boundaries. There is no clear start time, no lunch break, no moment where responsibility fully leaves your body. The work moves with you, into the kitchen, the bathroom, the bedroom, the quiet moments you thought might belong to you. Even when you sit down, you are listening. Even when you close your eyes, you are alert. From the outside, it can look still. A quiet house. Toys on the floor, a mother seated, scrolling, waiting. But what cannot be seen is the constant mental labor, tracking feeding schedules, remembering appointments, calculating nap windows, noticing small changes in mood, temperature, breath. This kind of work happens internally. It leaves no visible motion, but it never stops. When people say, "You're home all day," what they often mean is, you must have time. Time to rest. Time to do more, time to be grateful, but time, when you are responsible for another human being's survival and emotional regulation, does not belong to you. It is borrowed, fragmented, easily taken away by a cry, a spill, a sudden need. Even your thoughts are interrupted before they can fully form. There is also a quieter pressure hidden inside this phrase, the expectation of ease. If you're home, you should be managing well. You should be calm. You should not be tired in ways that need explaining. And if you are struggling, it becomes harder to name it, because the struggle doesn't match what others imagine your day looks like. So you learn to minimize it. You say, "It's fine." You say, "It's just tiring sometimes." You stop searching for words that might not be understood anyway. Caregiving work rarely earns validation because its success looks like nothing happening. When the baby is fed, safe, and calm, there is no visible outcome to celebrate. The absence of crisis becomes the proof that everything is easy. And the person who prevented the crisis disappears from the story. This is how reality becomes misunderstood, not through cruelty, but through invisibility. Another part that goes unseen is the emotional cost of constant availability. Your body is never fully yours. Your attention is always on standby. Even joy is layered with vigilance. Even love comes with exhaustion. And when no one recognizes this, the loneliness deepens, because it feels unreasonable to be tired in a role that society insists is natural, instinctive, and fulfilling. The phrase, "you're home all day," slowly teaches you to doubt yourself. Why am I so exhausted? Why do I feel like I'm failing something that should come naturally? You begin to compare your inner experience with the simplified version others hold of your life. And when they don't match, you assume the problem must be you. But it isn't. The misunderstanding lies in how we value labor. Work that produces something visible is praised. Work that quietly holds everything together is overlooked. And caregiving, especially when done at home, exists almost entirely in that overlooked space. So when someone says, "you're home all day," what they don't see is that you are working all day in ways that leave no proof behind. No paycheck, no praise, no marker of completion, just a body that keeps showing up, again and again, because someone needs you to. And the reality is this: being home all day doesn't mean you are free. It means you are always on. Losing small pieces of yourself. It doesn't happen all at once. There is no clear moment when you can say, "this is when I lost myself." It happens quietly, in small exchanges you don't think twice about at first. You postpone a shower because the baby might wake up. You skip a meal because there's something more urgent. You stop finishing sentences, not because you don't have thoughts, but because there is rarely space to complete them. Each choice feels minor, reasonable, temporary, but temporary things, repeated every day, begin to shape a new reality. You start by giving up comfort, then preferences, then parts of your identity that once felt essential. The music you loved no longer plays. The books stay unopened. Conversations drift toward logistics and needs, not ideas or feelings. When someone asks how you are, you answer in practical terms: tired, busy, managing, because emotional honesty feels too heavy to unpack. There is no dramatic collapse here, just a slow narrowing. Your world becomes efficient, functional, contained by routines designed for someone else. And while you love your child deeply, you begin to notice that your own inner life has grown quiet. Not peaceful, just unattended. Rest starts to feel undeserved. You measure your worth by productivity. Did the baby eat? Did they sleep? Did I keep everything together today? If the answers are yes, you allow yourself to exist. If not, guilt settles in quickly. Even asking for help feels complicated. You wonder if you're overreacting. If others handle this better. If needing support means you're not strong enough, not grateful enough, not cut out for this role. So you stay silent, convincing yourself that losing yourself is part of the process, something everyone goes through, something you're expected to endure. Over time, you forget what you used to need. You no longer ask what you want because the question feels abstract. When rare moments of quiet appear, you don't know how to fill them. Scrolling becomes easier than listening inward. Distraction replaces reflection. It's safer not to notice what's missing. This is how small pieces disappear, not through neglect, but through constant prioritization of others. You become highly skilled at attunement to another person while growing distant from yourself. Your emotional radar points outward, always scanning, always adjusting. And because this loss is gradual, it's hard to grieve. There is no permission to mourn a self that hasn't vanished completely, only thinned out. You are still here, you are still functioning, but something essential feels dimmer, quieter, harder to reach. Sometimes it shows up as irritability, sometimes as numbness, sometimes as a vague sense of sadness you can't explain. You tell yourself you should be happy. You love your child, nothing is wrong, and yet, something feels off. Like wearing clothes that almost fit but never quite settle. The most painful part is not the loss itself, but how invisible it is. No one marks the moment when you stop recognizing your own reflection. No one notices when your dreams shrink to the size of the next nap window. There is no language offered for this experience, so you assume it's not worth naming. But it is. Losing small pieces of yourself is not a failure of love. It is a consequence of sustained self-erasure in the name of care. And the fact that it happens so quietly does not make it less real. You are not broken for missing who you used to be. You are not selfish for wanting to exist beyond function. You didn't lose yourself because you weren't strong enough. You lost pieces because you were giving, constantly, without pause, without witness. And even now, those pieces are not gone forever. They are waiting, not for you to become someone else, but for you to turn back toward yourself, gently, when you're ready. Smiling while falling apart. From the outside, you look fine. You smile when someone asks how you're doing. You say the expected things. Just tired, it's a lot, but I'm okay, you know how it is. Your voice stays steady, your face knows what to do. You've learned how to make reassurance automatic, almost reflexive. This is not dishonesty, it's survival. There is an unspoken rule many mothers absorb quickly. Strength is quieter than pain. You are praised for coping, for managing, for not making things complicated. So you become skilled at holding yourself together in public, even when inside, everything feels fragile. You laugh at the right moments. You show photos. You nod when people offer advice you didn't ask for. You say thank you when they comment on how well you're doing. And each time, a small part of you pulls back, not wanting to explain the gap between what they see and what you feel. Falling apart doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like numbness. Sometimes it looks like irritability you don't recognize as your own. Sometimes it looks like crying in the bathroom because it's the only place no one needs you. But you clean your face, take a breath, and step back out. Because there are things to do. Because stopping feels impossible. Because if you don't keep moving, you're not sure what will surface. Smiling becomes a kind of armor. It protects you from questions you don't have the energy to answer. It keeps the world predictable. If you appear fine, people don't worry. And if they don't worry, you don't have to explain a pain that doesn't have easy language. There is also fear beneath the smile. Fear of being seen as ungrateful. Fear of being judged. Fear that if you admit how hard it is, it will confirm the quiet doubts you already carry. That you're not strong enough, not patient enough, not cut out for this role. So you hold it together. You hold it together when you haven't slept. You hold it together when your body feels foreign. You hold it together when your thoughts feel heavy and slow. And because you do, the struggle becomes invisible. People assume you're managing because you look like you are. They assume silence means stability. They assume that if something were truly wrong, you would say something. What they don't understand is how difficult it is to speak when you don't feel safe falling apart. The emotional labor of appearing okay is exhausting in its own way. It requires constant self-monitoring. Am I smiling enough? Am I responding correctly? Am I being too quiet? Even moments of connection feel like performance. And performance, over time, creates distance. Not just from others, but from yourself. You start to lose track of what you actually feel versus what you show. Your inner experience becomes something private, even from you. You stop checking in. You push discomfort aside because there is no space for it. And when pain is postponed long enough, it doesn't disappear, it settles deeper. Sometimes the falling apart happens late at night. When the house is quiet. When the day finally loosens its grip. That's when the weight shows itself. In tears that arrive without a clear reason, in a sense of dread about tomorrow, in the wish for rest that feels more like escape. But morning comes, and with it, the smile returns. Not because you're healed, but because you've learned that functioning is rewarded, and struggling is inconvenient. This chapter of smiling while falling apart is not about weakness. It's about adaptation, about learning how to survive in a role that demands constant presence but leaves little room for honesty. If this feels familiar, know this. The smile is not proof that you are okay. It is proof that you are trying, often without enough support. And one day, when it feels possible, you are allowed to put it down. Why no one notices most of the time, no one is trying to ignore you. That's what makes this so hard to understand. The reason no one notices is rarely cruelty. It's not a lack of care. It's the quiet combination of expectations, assumptions, and long-standing stories about what motherhood is supposed to look like. Stories that leave very little room for complexity. From the beginning, mothers are expected to adapt, to adjust, to handle it. Caregiving is framed as instinctive, natural, something that should come from love rather than effort. And when something is believed to be natural, the labor behind it disappears. People notice when things fall apart. They don't notice when things are barely being held together. When your child is fed, safe, and growing, the system appears to be working. And if the system is working, the person holding it together fades into the background. Stability becomes invisibility. There is also a deep cultural habit of centering the child and erasing the mother. Questions focus on sleep schedules, milestones, weight, development. Praise is directed at outcomes. The baby looks great. Rarely does anyone pause to ask how the person providing that care is doing, not in passing, but in a way that leaves space for an honest answer. Another reason no one notices is because you've learned not to show it. You don't complain, you don't ask for much. You smile, respond politely, and downplay your fatigue. Over time, this becomes part of how people see you: capable, calm, managing. And once that image is formed, it's surprisingly hard to break. Even when you're struggling, people filter it through the version of you they already know. There's also discomfort on the other side. Many people don't know how to respond to emotional pain that doesn't have a clear solution. It's easier to offer advice than presence. Easier to reassure than to listen. Easier to assume you're fine than to sit with the possibility that you're not. So the signals get missed. Your exhaustion looks like normal tiredness. Your withdrawal looks like busyness. Your silence looks like strength. And because you are still functioning, still showing up, still doing what needs to be done, the alarm never goes off. Another layer is comparison. People measure your experience against what they think motherhood should be, or against their own memories, filtered by time. They remember the love, the meaning. They forget the relentless nature of being needed all the time. When your reality doesn't match their simplified version, they assume the gap is personal rather than structural. This creates a quiet isolation. You begin to feel unseen not just emotionally, but existentially, like your inner life doesn't quite register. You are present, useful, necessary, but not witnessed, and over time, you stop expecting to be noticed. You stop mentioning the hard parts. You stop reaching out. You adjust your expectations downward because hoping for understanding feels like another risk you can't afford. It's easier to disappear quietly than to ask for recognition and not receive it. But invisibility has a cost. When no one notices, you start to question your own experience. You wonder if you're exaggerating, if you're too sensitive, if this is simply what it means to be a good mother, to endure without acknowledgement. It isn't. The truth is, caregiving labor is designed to be invisible. It runs on the assumption that someone will always be there, always adjust, always absorb the strain. And because it has been this way for so long, the lack of recognition feels normal, even inevitable. But just because something is common doesn't mean it's harmless. Not being noticed doesn't mean you don't matter. It means the lens is too narrow. And if no one has said it clearly before, let it be said here. The fact that you are still standing does not mean you are okay. It means you have been carrying more than most people realize. You are not unseen because you failed to show up. You are unseen because the world is not very good at seeing quiet endurance. The cost of being strong for too long. Strength is praised early. People admire how you manage, how you don't complain, how you keep everything running even when you're clearly exhausted. They say things like, "You're so strong," "I don't know how you do it," and "You're amazing." These words are meant as comfort, as recognition, but strength, when it's required for too long, stops being a compliment. It becomes a demand. At first, being strong feels necessary. You push through because there is no alternative. The child needs you. The day keeps moving. You tell yourself this is temporary, a hard season that will pass if you just hold on a little longer. So you do. You override your body's signals. You normalize fatigue. You ignore the tightness in your chest, the headaches, the sense of heaviness that follows you through the day. You stop distinguishing between what is hard and what is harmful, because acknowledging that difference feels overwhelming. Over time, the cost begins to show, not all at once, but in subtle, accumulating ways. Your nervous system never fully settles. You remain in a low-grade state of alert, even during rest. Sleep doesn't restore you the way it used to. Silence doesn't feel peaceful. It feels empty or tense. Your body has learned that stillness is unsafe because it's usually followed by interruption. Emotionally, things begin to flatten. You still feel love, but joy feels muted. Sadness feels heavy but indistinct. You move through the day on autopilot, doing what needs to be done without much connection to how it feels. This isn't resilience, it's depletion. Being strong for too long also changes how you relate to yourself. You stop asking what you need because the answer feels inconvenient. You measure your worth by endurance. If you can get through the day without breaking down, you consider it a success, even if the cost is your inner life. Strength becomes synonymous with silence. And when you do feel overwhelmed, guilt quickly follows. You tell yourself you should be able to handle this. Others have it harder. You chose this. You love your child. These thoughts don't bring relief. They bring pressure. They keep you from reaching out, from naming what's actually happening inside. There is also a quiet grief that comes with prolonged strength. Grief for the version of yourself who rested more easily, who felt more spontaneous, who didn't have to brace for impact every morning. This grief is rarely acknowledged because it doesn't fit the narrative of gratitude that surrounds motherhood. But unacknowledged grief doesn't disappear. It settles into the body. Sometimes it shows up as chronic exhaustion that no amount of sleep fixes. Sometimes as irritability that surprises you. Sometimes as a sense of disconnection, from your partner, your friends, even from your child in moments where you wish you felt more present. The most dangerous part of being strong for too long is that it teaches others, and eventually you, that you don't need care. People stop checking in. Support quietly withdraws, not out of malice, but because your strength has convinced everyone that you're fine. And when strength becomes your identity, it's hard to step out of it. Admitting you're struggling can feel like failure, like you're letting everyone down, like you're betraying the image you worked so hard to maintain. But here is the truth that often gets lost. Strength without rest becomes survival. Survival without support becomes harm. You were never meant to carry this alone, indefinitely. The cost you're paying is not a personal flaw. It's the predictable outcome of being asked to be endlessly capable without being held in return. If you recognize yourself here, it doesn't mean you waited too long. It means your body and mind are asking for something different now. Not collapse. Not disappearance, just permission to soften, to be supported, to stop proving your strength at your own expense. Being strong kept you going, but it shouldn't cost you yourself. A gentle turning point, being seen by yourself. The turning point doesn't arrive with clarity or confidence. There is no dramatic decision, no sudden burst of strength, no clear plan for how things will change. Most of the time, it begins quietly, almost unnoticeably, with a moment where you stop arguing with yourself. You notice the exhaustion without immediately pushing it away. You feel the sadness without explaining it. You pause, not to fix anything, but to acknowledge what is already there. This is what it means to begin seeing yourself. For a long time, you learn to look outward, to track needs, anticipate problems, adjust constantly. Your attention was trained away from yourself, not out of neglect, but out of necessity. Turning that attention back inward can feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. It can feel selfish, or dangerous, as if noticing your own pain might open something you can't contain. But self-recognition doesn't demand collapse. It asks for honesty. Being seen by yourself might look like admitting, "This is harder than I expected." Or whispering, "I'm not okay, even if everything looks fine." Or simply naming, "I'm tired," not just physically, but deeply. These words don't solve anything, but they change the shape of the silence. They turn suffering from something you endure alone into something that has a witness. This turning point is gentle because it does not ask you to become someone else. It does not demand positivity or gratitude. It doesn't require you to love this phase of your life. It only asks you to stop disappearing inside it. You begin to notice small signals you once ignored. Hunger, tension, emotional overwhelm. Instead of overriding them automatically, you let them exist for a moment. You don't always respond perfectly. Sometimes all you do is acknowledge them. And that is enough to begin shifting the pattern. Being seen by yourself also means releasing comparison. You stop measuring your experience against idealized versions of motherhood. your own expectations, other people's stories, the images you've absorbed over time. You allow your reality to be what it is, without ranking it or minimizing it. This self-recognition can feel lonely at first. When you stop numbing or distracting, you may feel the full weight of what you've been carrying. But there is also relief in it, a sense of coming back into your own body, your own perspective. You are no longer watching yourself from a distance. You are here. Importantly, this turning point does not require immediate action. You don't have to fix your life. You don't have to ask for help before you're ready. You don't have to explain yourself to anyone. Seeing yourself is not a performance. It's a private act of respect. And slowly, this internal shift changes how you move through the world. You may begin to set very small boundaries, not out of defiance, but out of care. You may rest without justifying it. You may speak more honestly in safe spaces. Or you may simply stop criticizing yourself for struggling. None of this is loud. None of it looks impressive. But it matters. Because when you see yourself, you interrupt the pattern of self-erasure. You remind yourself that your experience counts, even if no one else notices yet. You create an internal ally where there used to be only pressure. This is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a different relationship with yourself. One where strength is allowed to coexist with tenderness. Where care flows in more than one direction. Being seen by yourself doesn't mean you are suddenly healed. It means you are no longer invisible, at least not to you. And sometimes, that is the most important turning point of all. Closing. You are still here. If you've made it this far, let this land gently. You are still here, not because you were unaffected. Not because it wasn't hard. But because, even in the quiet moments of disappearing, something in you stayed. You didn't vanish. You adapted. You carried what needed to be carried when there was no other choice. And the cost of that does not erase the truth of who you are, it explains it. There may be parts of you that feel distant now. Interests that went quiet. Confidence that softened. A sense of self that feels harder to reach. But distance is not disappearance. What stepped back did so to survive. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not weak for needing more than endurance. Being here, still showing up, still caring, still questioning, matters. Even if no one applauded it. Even if no one named it. Your presence has weight, even when it's quiet. And you don't need to rush your return to yourself. There is no deadline for becoming whole again. No expectation to bounce back, to be grateful, to turn pain into growth on demand. You are allowed to take up space slowly, to re-enter your own life in pieces, to choose gentleness over urgency. If all you can do today is notice yourself, that is enough. If all you can offer is breath, that is enough. You are still here, and that means the story is not over. It is simply moving at a pace that respects what you've been through. And when you're ready, you don't have to find a new version of yourself. You can come back to the one who never fully left.